All right, we are live. I'm gonna start in a minute or so. Just gonna get set up really quick, but yeah, I needed to, I needed to vent, man. This is a what is it? I don't know, like a confessional right now, man, because I need to get these thoughts out here, man, because I got a lot to say about episode 2 of The Witcher season 2. So yeah, man, yeah, we gotta talk about it. Um. So yeah, let me just finish setting up and then we can go ahead and start talking about this very very interesting episode, I should say. Um, all right, I think cool. Just wanted to get the thumbnail uploaded. Should be good. Let me share this really quickly and then we can get started. Yeah, definitely a lot to say, man. Then we'll wait if anybody also wants to jump in here to listen to this. Um, okay. Okay. I think we are good. Okay. Where do I even want to begin with this one? Yeah, where do we begin? So I guess naturally let's run down some positives. um the episode titled Care Morin. Um all right. So yeah, some positives that we can talk about. Care Morin itself I think looks absolutely incredible. What they've done with that. You know, in terms of like the production value, it looks really really damn good. Yeah, it definitely doesn't look like it's cheaply made or anything along those lines. It looks really appealing to look at. So yeah, I love in general what they have done with Kaer Morhen. Especially, I think the addition of like the tree in the center of like the main hall. The tree with all of the sort of like fallen Witcher medallions hanging up on the limbs and whatnot. I think is a really cool addition that I think makes sense within the context of the Witcher universe. Like I could realistically believe that, oh yeah, that is definitely something that could possibly exist in Kaer Morhen. So yeah, I definitely, that's something that I liked that they added. I loved the ending bit of this episode. It's funny because I think this part was probably my favorite like part of the entire episode in general, of Geralt and Ciri just like doing some sword work together. To me, that was the best part of of the episode. It sucks that that was only like what, maybe like 30 seconds at the end, or maybe longer, but yeah, because for me, Blood of Elves was always like, I always dubbed that book as like the Ciri training arc book, right? It's the majority of that book is Ciri, being under the tutelage of Geralt and the Witchers, and then the other half of the book is Ciri being under Yennefer's wing and training how to control, her abilities, right? So yeah, I'm hoping that we're starting to move into that a little bit more. I'm still nervous that we won't get into Yennefer training Ciri at all this season, because so far, through, obviously that could change, but so far through 2 episodes, I haven't gotten the slightest, inkling that that's even going to happen this season, which would really bum me out because that's really important for establishing those two characters, relationship. But whatever, I'll reserve judgment for that. Vesemir, I think, except for one crucial, crucial thing that I kind of rose my eyebrow at, I think in general, this portrayal of Vesemir is really, really solid. I'm really enjoying what I'm seeing from him so far. So yeah, I think I think in terms of uh positives, I think that's pretty much about it. Um, so yeah, man, let's talk about the rest of this episode because yeah, it was definitely it was interesting, man. Um, where do I begin? Where do I begin? Um, let's okay, so let's actually talk about like the Yennefer subplot with her and Fringilla Vigo, and now Francesca Findabair is involved, and it's like, man, I think like probably like one of my biggest worries is that like I'm afraid like are they just trying to do like way too much? Like I've always been of the opinion of like sure, like I want them to like I don't want this to be a one-to-one exact adaptation of the books because like I've already read the books. It would be boring to just like watch the same exact thing play out on TV, right? So like sure, I welcome some additions, some deviation from the source material, but at the same time with this Yennefer stuff it was just like I didn't care at all with what was going on with Yennefer's story, which sucks to say because like Yennefer is not only my favorite character from the books, but like also I thought Anya Shalatra's portrayal of the character in season one was like my favorite part of season one. To be honest, I really loved Yennefer in season one. I think that's probably an unpopular take, but yeah, I thought Anya Shalatra really did a great job portraying the character. Um, so yeah, so it's just like it was really disappointing for, like every time Yennefer is on scene or like on in a scene or whatever, it's something that I usually eat up. Like I love watching her on screen, but then just like this entirety uh subplot with her, Francesca and Fringilla, I just did not care in the slightest. In the slightest, man. And it was all and like the weirdest part of it all, right, is Fringilla not Fringilla, sorry, Francesca. What they're doing with Francesca, right? This is a character, mind you, who is supposed to be, you know, up there with Philippa Eilhart in terms of like one of the most like intimidating, like most powerful mages in the known continent, right? Like Francesca is can be fucking terrifying, man. But it's like the whole reasoning for this whole subplot with the witch, which I don't understand in the slightest. It was all to get to the end point of, oh, okay, Nilfgaard and the elves getting into like an alliance or whatever, which yeah, it's fine, right? Because that's where we needed to get to that logical conclusion of the Nilfgaardians joining with the elves, right? But I think one of the like coolest like defining factors of Emir's character, right? Emperor Emir's character is his brain, right? His brilliance, his ability to sort of like manipulate, right? And I feel like in doing this whole weird like witch subplot, it like robbed Emir's opportunity of like using the elves, right? Because the elves are sort of these like marginalized group of people, and Emir just straight up uses them as a tool for like for his essentially his conquest of like the entire continent, right? That's again one of the biggest plot points of the next book, Time of Contempt, is the elves and the Nilfgaardians attacking Aretuza and the whole banquet and whatnot. And so, like, I don't know, it's just really weird that, like, okay, so now Fringilla and Francesca make this alliance themselves without Emir's sort of like involvement in doing so. So, yeah, that was definitely like a weird thing that I kind of like needed to like wrap my head around. But like, okay, fine, whatever, not the biggest thing in the world. It's something like whatever. It's kind of annoying, but whatever. I can live with it. So yeah, there's that, and again, just the fact that I didn't care about Yennefer, her subplot like at all. She can't use magic or whatever now, so like I don't know how that's gonna be resolved. I don't know how that happened. Um, yeah, I don't know. Again, it's what I was saying earlier. Like I'm okay with some deviations with the source material, or as long as like because they've done with season one especially, and even a little bit here in season two. Like I like this idea of like, okay, let's expand upon some things that weren't really delved into in the books, right? So I like the fact that we actually got to see the battle of Sodden Hill. I like the fact also that we got to see the aftermath of Sodden Hill. Like we always heard about how traumatic it was for characters like Triss specifically, and sort of the mark that that battle left on her and her sort of like her fellow sisters in the Lodge of Sorceresses, but we never actually got to see it. So I kind of like that, we got a little bit of that here in season two. But again, there's the concern of like, okay, are they doing way too much now with having, this whole Yennefer subplot? Like, is it just gonna make all of this feel bloated and it's gonna make it feel boring? Because so far, yeah, the Yennefer stuff is feeling absolutely boring, just like the series stuff felt absolutely boring in season one. And I think that comes from just trying to do like way too much, right? So yeah, that's definitely like a big concern that I have. But yeah, I don't know. We'll see where it goes. This whole witch subplot. Yeah, we'll see where that goes. But yeah. So got all that out of the way. I think the big meat of this video and why I wanted to jump on this just random live stream was I needed to talk about Eskel. I needed to talk about Eskel and what they have done to my boy. Like look how they've massacred my boy. Like that's honestly like how I feel like right now. After watching, I literally just finished watching the episode maybe like 30 minutes ago, and I was like, okay, I immediately need to talk about this. So yeah, let's jump into this. Um, so I feel like for me this really starts like way like months in advance before season two ever came out. So months in advance, right? There were rumors swirling around that Eskel was going to die in season two, uh, thanks to Aleshi, that Aleshi was going to kill him. So like while initially I was like, okay, that's weird. But then, eventually I was like, I sat with it and I was like, okay, let's see how they're gonna make this work, right? I kept telling myself like, okay, if they can at least make us care about Eskel, and if they really cement and showcase his bond with Geralt, then this could be like a really impactful death, right? Like they could make it work, right? Come to find out, Eskel dies in the second episode, which I was not prepared for. Literally the second episode of the season, Eskel dies, right? And it's literally his introduction into the show. They introduce him and kill him within the same episode, which is unbelievable to me. So, see, like, I would be somewhat okay with the idea of Eskel dying, since he's like in the books, he's like pretty minor, right? He's in Blood of Elves, and I don't think he comes back in the books at all after that book. So yeah, like I'm not even necessarily mad with him dying. If they took the opportunity, if they took the advantage to flesh him out more, right? So what killing him off so early effectively does is that it gives us no reason to really care about him. It gives us no reason to care about him because we barely get any time to get to know him. And when we do spend time with Eskel, it's Eskel being weird to Ciri, or it's Eskel being confrontational with Geralt. It's just in general Eskel being unlikable from the start, right? So yeah, it just really sucks because they really had a good opportunity to like, okay, let's take this character who didn't have much screen time in the books and let's actually have him and Geralt spend a little bit more time together. Let's actually reaffirm like their bond because these two are actually like really, really close, man. They're really, really close. And you just don't get a sense of that at all. Before you even get a chance to even like see their bond, Eskel's already gone, right? So yeah, anyway. So speaking of all that, let's talk about let's talk about like specifically this rendition of Eskel, this douchey frat boy rendition of Eskel. First of all, and like I know this is kind of like a nitpick, but like the moment it was revealed that Eskel was hurt by the Leshy, like did no one check up on him? Did no one, even think to like, what, that's a wound that we should probably look at, right? That no one no one thought about that at all. I feel like all of this could have been avoided if, someone had, the foresight to be like, what, that's a wound that we should probably look at, but no one did, so whatever. Anyway, I knew from the moment that Eskel was introduced, that this was gonna be rough. This was gonna be really rough. The moment that he entered the doors of Kaer Morhen, and Vesemir says something along the lines of, "You kill Leshies with a fire flames to the heart, right?" And in 6 hours, this did not occur to you, and then everyone just starts laughing at him. I knew from that moment. I was like, oh boy, this is not the Eskel that we know. Because keep in mind, this is someone who's relatively like just as experienced as Geralt, right? Just as knowledgeable. So this immediately makes him come across as like an amateur witcher. Like, is he new? Like, has he only been a witcher for like a year? Um, or is he just like dumb? Like what's going on here? You get no sense that Eskel is an experienced witcher on, sort of like the same, just in terms of like experience, that he's up there with Geralt and everybody else, right? You get no sense of that at all, that he's a witcher who knows what he's doing, which is really disappointing. Yeah, just really disappointing. And especially, and like I think about sort of people who are watching this for the first time, right? People who have no experience with the books, people who have no experience with the games. I feel like that's immediately that would be their thought, right? Is like, okay, so this guy must be like a new Witcher, right? Like he must be like a rookie Witcher or something like that, because it seems like this is a rule with Leshies, right? The flame to the heart, that this is obviously something that everybody else knows, but he doesn't. So yeah, he must be new or something. And like that's just not I feel like that's just not the sort of like takeaway that people should be having with Eskel of all people, right? Um so yeah, so obviously the big thing that people have been talking about is the party, right? So let's get into that as well, cuz I could not believe my eyes when I saw this on screen, man. So essentially, Eskel calls up some girls from a village down the mountains, I think it was said, which is also another nitpick, I guess, but is also pretty ridiculous within itself, right? Because correct me if I'm wrong, Kaer Morhen is supposed to be this, secret place hidden in the mountains, right? Like no one is supposed to know where Kaer Morhen is. So like the fact that that there's like a somewhat close by village to Kaer Morhen was also something that like made me scratch my head. And then you couple that with the fact that Esco brings a bunch of people to Kaer Morhen as well, which is insane. Um, Anyway, so yeah, he calls up some girls from this village, and he brings them to Kaer Morhen, which is so unbelievable because we know this. Fans of The Witchers know this, that Geralt, Lambert, Eskel, everyone, Cohen, right? They all have a sort of respect and reverence for this place, for this ancient place, right? And it's just like completely disregarded here. Completely disregarded. Um, which took me by surprise, right? And even more, what took me by surprise is the fact that Vesemir, of all people, is just, yeah, I'm cool with this. He's just completely cool with this, right? He's just over there vibing, having a drink, not not saying anything, just like he's totally okay with it. And I'm like, that's not Vesemir at all, right? That's not him whatsoever. Um, you would think, with Vesemir being who he is, you would think he would be the first person to be against this, right? So yeah, we have Vesemir seemingly being okay with it. The way that Geralt is acting, I feel like is the way that everyone should be acting, when we see Geralt, coming down the stairs or whatever, and he sees this hall, essentially this old sort of like archaic hall being desecrated by, these hookers and whatnot. And, he's just like disgusted, like he can't believe what he's seeing, right? And I feel like that reaction that we see from Geralt is the same reaction that we should be seeing Lambert having, we should see Cohen having, we should see absolutely Vesemir should have this reaction as well, and none of them do. That was like the most shocking thing about me, man. I honestly like just like could not believe my eyes when I saw that. Um And then also another thing is that like Eskel at one point like throws a punch at Geralt, and I'm like, what? Like he would never do that, man. He would never do. And then he makes like some weird comment about him being like, like a knight in shining armor or something like that. He was just overall being like really creepy. Whenever Ciri was like involved, like he was just being like really creepy about it. Um, so yeah, man, I don't know, man. Like I honestly don't know what else to say. I guess so. Yeah. So I guess we should move on to like him, um, eventually turning into a goddamn leshy, which was another thing that like, so like we see, he brings this woman into another room or whatever. They start making out or whatever. And then we start seeing the branch coming out of his back. And when Geralt actually comes down and enter the room, I feel I need to rewatch the episode, but I feel like I saw Eskel's body, like dead on the floor or like, leaned up against like a wall or something. Now that I think about it, I think that might have actually been the woman that he was hooking up with. But when I was first watching this episode, I thought that was Eskel, right? So I was like, damn, so that's the way that they kill him, just kind of like unceremoniously like that. Okay, like whatever, I guess. And then now here comes the Leshy. I come to find out the Leshy is goddamn Eskel, man. I was like, now this is just like pure fan fiction, man. This is something that I would write when I was like, I don't know, like 14 or something like that. Um, and I forget who says it exactly, but I think it might have been Vesemir, but Vesemir says something along the lines like, "Oh, I didn't even know like the Leshy infected Eskel. I didn't even know that was possible." Right? I'm like, "Yeah, neither did I." Like, yeah, so yeah, just seeing like Eskel, his face like implanted into the Leshy, like I don't know, man. It just felt so fan fictiony to me, so amateurish to me. Um, yeah, I don't know, man. It was really weird, and like I get like you could have done something cool with that, right? Like we could have seen theoretically like Eskel really sort of like struggling against this new like animalistic nature in him, like almost like a tug of war Bruce Banner Hulk sort of thing, right, where the Leshy is trying to fight for dominance within Eskel's mind. But no, it's just pure like, especially the moment when Eskel takes Vesemir and starts strangling him. I really thought that we were gonna see some of that, like Eskel fighting back and being like fighting against that urge, right? But we don't see that at all. So, the whole conflict, gets resolved with, Geralt in a small scene that I actually thought worked for me. Seeing sort of like the conflict in Geralt's face when is like holding out his sword, deciding, do I really kill, Eskel here? And he's seeing Vesemir, essentially his father figure, being strangled to death, and seeing him making that decision, like on his face, right? I thought that worked really well. But again, it's just completely lost within the context of like how we got to this point in general, and who Eskel is in this iteration of Eskel, and how it's just like a complete almost betrayal of like what we know this character to be. Yeah, it was just bizarre. It really bizarre. And I think the craziest thing to me is that like sure, if you needed a Witcher, if you needed a fellow brother to die in this moment, because essentially what this did is it motivated Geralt to train Ciri, right? That's all that this served really, was as motivation to push Geralt to take Ciri under his wing. But I felt like that still could have been accomplished with, there was like what, like 10 Witchers in that main hall. I feel like you could have done this, like that motivation at the end could have been served just as well with, Witcher number 5 in the main hall, nameless Witcher number 5 or whatever. I don't understand why we needed Eskel to be the one to die, why we needed Eskel to be like the douchebag, sort of. the one who brings women into Kaer Morhen, right? I don't understand why we needed Eskel to be the one to play that role. It just made no sense when you could have made another Witcher just as easily do that and provide that motivation for Geralt to later train Ciri, right? I felt like it easily could have worked just as well because we wouldn't have cared for Witcher number 5 if he turned into a Leshy, just like we don't care that Eskel turned into a Leshy and died this episode because we got no time to really get to know him. At least that's how I feel. I didn't care about Eskel at all in this episode because yeah, we didn't get any time to really sit with him to get to know him, and whenever we did, it was just him being weird or being confrontational to Geralt. So yeah, man, I really don't know. It's a head scratcher for me personally. Just Eskel in general. It's just one of those things where like the blueprint is there, man. So like, why do you feel the need to deviate like so much, right? Like much of the foundation of this character is already laid out. You already have the source material to go off of. I just don't understand why they needed to deviate and deviate just so drastically as they did with this character. And again, I don't even have like his death specifically is not even my biggest issue, right? There's a universe where Eskel's death could have been really, really good, right? But just I just think the way that they did it, man, it just fell flat on so many levels, man. But yeah, I don't know. This is just me rambling. I don't off the top of my head. I don't have like any notes or anything like that. Yeah, just me venting. I needed to talk about this because I just saw this episode like 30 minutes ago, and yeah, I needed to. I needed to. I needed this, man. But yeah, I think that's gonna do it for this little talk. Like I said earlier, I'm planning to do this for every episode, just like sort of me sitting down and just having a chat about things that I liked, things that I didn't like, etc., etc. So yeah, definitely look out for that. I will go back and do episode 1. I just immediately needed to do episode 2 because it was like, yeah, I needed to talk about this really, really badly. So yeah, I'll go back and do episode 1, which I enjoyed for the most part. I have some nitpicks, but yeah, I enjoyed episode 1 for the most part. But then episode 2 just completely shocked me, man. And the thing is, man, is that like when the episode titles were revealed, this episode and Dear Friend, I don't know which episode that one is specifically, and Redanian Intelligence, like those episodes were like I was so excited. When those were revealed, I was like, oh hell yeah, we're gonna meet Dijkstra, Dear Friend. That's one of my favorite moments from the books. I can't wait to see that translated into on TV. And then Kaer Morhen, same thing. I can't wait to see that and the other Witchers on TV. And man, dude, I wouldn't be surprised if this episode ends up being my least favorite in the entire season. To be honest, man, which is again crazy. An episode I was so looking forward to, brought to life beforehand, just absolutely fell flat on like nearly like every moment for me. Yeah, that's I think that's all I gotta say, man. I still cannot believe that they brought hookers to Kaer Morhen and they thought that was a good idea. I I cannot believe it, man. Like, don't they have like a bunch of like like experts on set like at all times? Like, did no one actually like bring up or like protest or say like what, this might actually be like a bad idea? Like this is something that like doesn't make sense for like none of these characters would do this, right? So yeah, I'm shocked that no one, brought that up or no one deigned to even, challenge this idea at all. Like, I don't know how this makes it through, but yeah, it's whatever. We're past it. This is an episode I hope I don't have to see again because yeah, it was disappointing on so many fronts. But hey, man, at least Ciri, Geralt, and Vesemir and Lambert for the most part are pretty cool. So yeah, so that's that, man. That's my review for episode 2 of The Witcher season 2, Kaer Morhen. I really hope it gets better from here because this was an absolute low point for me. So yeah, man, that's gonna do it for this one. Stay tuned for future episode reviews / spoiler casts, and yeah, I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.